Donald Trump seems obsessed with the idea of getting a Nobel Peace Prize, guys, a title he clearly believes he deserves despite having done little to promote peace. When it's officially announced that he didn't win it, his fragile ego will no doubt spiral into chaos as usual. This man who treats everything as a personal attack is bound to erupt, and we already saw signs of that unraveling today. Now, he actually doesn't crave the prize because of any genuine pursuit of peace or diplomacy. He wants it purely for the spotlight and validation. He actually seems to think that by shouting the loudest, insulting others, and manufacturing chaos, he somehow earns the label of a peacemaker. That delusion was on full display during his meeting with the president of Finland, where Trump's desperate attempts to impress backfired spectacularly. When asked whether Trump deserved the Peace Prize, guess what? The Finnish leader just delivered an answer that left Trump looking utterly humiliated. What followed in the Oval Office was a public meltdown, another tantrum from a man incapable of handling rejection or criticism. Now, before we dive any deeper into those cringeworthy moments, guys, please remember to leave a like on the video, and if you already haven't, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help us to continue exposing this kind of political theatre. Now let's begin with one of the more revealing questions of the day. Trump's curious and concerning visit to Walter Reed Hospital.
Gentleman, nice tall gentleman, guy with the yellow shirt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to change gears just really quickly and ask you, you're going to Walter Reed tomorrow? What are you having done? How are you feeling?
I'm meeting with the troops, and I'm also going to do a sort of semi-annual physical, which I do. And I think I'm in great shape, but I'll let you know. But I have no difficulty thus far. Is there wood around here? I'll knock on. No difficulty. Physically, I feel very good. Mentally, I feel very good. I did about 6-7 months ago. I do physicals. I like to, when I'm around, I like to check always early, always be early. It's a lesson for a lot of people.
Yes. According to Donald Trump, everything about his health is perfect. Nothing to see here, folks. It's at least that's what he wants everyone to believe. We'll be getting into the rest of his bizarre comments in a moment, guys. But because what he said next takes his usual rambling to a whole new level, a clear reminder that the former president's grasp on reality seems shakier than ever. Now, despite his attempts to project strength and vitality, Trump is clearly under immense pressure. He's juggling multiple scandals and investigations, yet somehow his priorities couldn't be further from leadership or integrity. And as someone who still fantasizes about winning a Nobel Peace Prize, his focus is telling. Instead of encouraging in genuine peace efforts or meaningful diplomacy, Trump's attention is always fixed on bragging about conflicts he claims to have ended, which is obviously not true. Guys, this isn't a man quietly working behind the scenes for stability in the Middle East or anywhere else for that matter. Instead, we see the same pattern of chaos, just empty boasts, confusion about basic policy, and even moments when aides like the disgusting Marco Rubio are seen feeding him lines or notes just to keep him on track. That's not leadership, that's damage control, guys. The following clip, taken just before Trump's late Oval Office meltdown, after the Finnish president's response, perfectly captures his obsession with image over substance. Let's take a closer look at what really went down.
One thing, I don't know what they're going to do, really, but I know this, that nobody in history has solved 8 wars in a period of 9 months. And I've stopped 8 wars. So that's never happened before. But they'll have to do what they do. Whatever they do is fine. I know this. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I saved a lot of lives. And that's the thing that bothers me so much about the Russia-Ukraine. 7,000 people are dying a week. Young soldiers. They're almost all soldiers of Ukraine and Russia. So in theory, it doesn't affect us, no, but it's a terrible thing.
Demanding a Nobel Peace Prize like a trophy to be handed to him and threatening anyone who doubts him has become Trump's latest act, as if shouting the loudest and vilifying his critics is a substitute for real statesmanship. Lately, he's been oddly preoccupied with legacy and the afterlife, constantly invoking heaven and legacy as though that will, rewrite the record of his presidency. Now, That hunger for validation explains why the price obsession has consumed him completely. It's less about peace and more about shiny historical seal of approval. When the president of Finland gave him a restrained answer about whether Trump deserved the award, the response didn't land well with him, guys. It triggered an even louder public meltdown. Another example of a man who reacts to disappointment with theatrics instead of reflection. Now, what began at Walter Reed as a routine exchange, it morphed into a spectacle. It underscored that his priorities are driven by image and ego, not by genuine leadership or policy.
President Stubb, you have time and again said that one should not underestimate Mr. Trump's negotiating ability. Do you personally believe that Mr. Trump deserves to win the Nobel Peace Prize tomorrow?
Well, I think that's probably a decision that comes from the Nobel Committee. And my take is that there are two key pieces that have to be solved in the big picture. One is in the Middle East, and we're seeing the results of that. And then the other one is between Russia and Ukraine. And once those are solved, I don't see any impediments
Do
to
you
it.
plan to nominate Mr. Trump next year if he doesn't win?
This year? I think probably the best nomination would be coming from Zelensky and then the King of Jordan. Those would be two that would come. But I think you have to, my experience with the Nobel Peace Prize comes from Martti Ahtisaari, the former president of Finland. He got it in 2008, and he got it because he negotiated 3 peace agreements on 3 different continents. Namibia in Africa, Kosovo, Serbia in Europe, and then Aceh in Indonesia. And his message was always that when you do a peace agreement, the key is that it looks like an equal match, that the big guy doesn't win over the small guy, and vice versa. But I have to say that the track record of the President of the United States in the past 7 months, 8 months is rather impressive.
The response from the Finnish president was the definition of a diplomatic tightrope walk, guys. An exercise in saying as little as possible while avoiding a full-blown Trump tantrum. If he'd wanted to flatter Trump, he could have just said it. Sure, he deserves it. But instead, he cautiously danced around the question, offering a vague, non-committal type of answer about how Trump might one day deserve the Nobel Peace Prize if he actually accomplished something meaningful. A polite way of saying, you're not even close. Trump, of course, spun it into yet another self-pity narrative, acting as though being denied the Nobel would be a world historic injustice. The greatest tragedy in the awards history. Never mind the irony that people like Henry Kissinger have actually won it. The point is, guys, Trump genuinely believes he's owed global recognition for his achievements, and that exists mostly in his imagination. But the meltdown didn't stop there. In true Trump fashion, he pivoted to resentment, directing his anger towards Barack Obama. Now, what followed was another bitter tirade, revealing once again that Trump's obsession isn't about peace or progress, it's about envy, ego, pure and simple.
President Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for way less than you did, and President Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize
He
for
got a
way
prize
less.
for doing nothing.
Exactly.
Obama got a prize. He didn't even know what he got. He got elected, and they gave it to Obama for doing absolutely nothing but destroying our country. No, he was not a good president. The worst president was Sleepy Joe Biden. But Obama was not a good president.
Are you going to do something with the
They gave him a prize. How many months after he won the election, then they gave him the Peace Prize, right?
It was right after he was elected.
My election was a much more important election.
Trump's comments reveal an obsession with comparing himself to Barack Obama. If his entire worldview revolves around trying to outshine the former president, Obama, his fixation on Obama isn't just political, guys. It extends to superficial measures of strength, competence and charisma. Things Trump obviously clearly feel he lacks. This envy shows up everywhere. Trump struggles to speak in coherent, thoughtful sentences, yet he constantly contrasts himself with Obama, who is widely recognized, in my opinion, for his eloquence and intellect when he was president. Meanwhile, Trump turns to every conversation into an opportunity to boast about his imaginary victories, like ending wars and even Even the reality is far murkier, guys, which I'm not going to get into in this video. Rambling about self-contradictory claims, a reminder that much of his public persona is driven by ego, insecurity, and a desperate need to rewrite history in his favor.
More closely together, having to do with Russia, Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that would have been easier because that would be number 8 for me, number 8. And I would have thought the Russia deal maybe would have been one of the easier ones. And unfortunately, last week they had over 7,000 soldiers die.
Trump seems determined to showcase just how little grasp he has on serious matters, guys. He actually claimed after meeting with Zelensky that he now better understands the military and economic conditions on the ground. This is from a man who spent years boasting about how he could stop wars, preventing conflicts or fix situations he actually barely comprehends, yet repeatedly fails to explain how he's actually going to do it. Just a week ago, he was claiming newfound expertise, as if months of global crisis could be summarized into a single encounter. The idea that this qualifies him as a stable genius is laughable. Governing for Trump and much of his circle appears to be nothing more than a game or a theatrical performance, guys, with real lives actually hanging in the balance, whether it's in Ukraine or in Gaza or at home. To him, these are props in a personal spectacle. That's all it is. Everything Trump does seems aimed at maintaining the image of a tough, commanding type of figure, which is why his commentary inevitably always drifts to political rivals like Obama and Biden, as if comparing himself to those could somehow, make up for his own failures in leadership.
Lesson for a lot of people. But I also did a cognitive exam, which is always very risky because if I didn't do well, you'd be the first to be blaring it. And I had a perfect score. And one of the doctors said he's almost never seen a perfect score. I had a perfect score. I got the highest score. And that made me feel good. When they asked, would I like to do one? I said, yeah. I said, did Obama do it? No. Did Bush do it? No. Did Biden do it? I definitely did. Biden wouldn't have gotten the first 3 questions right. No, Biden didn't do it. Biden should have done it. I'm actually a person that believes that if you're president, you should do a cognitive exam. But last time I took a cognitive exam, and it was a perfect score. The doctors announced it.
Arguably, one of the most revealing and concerning moments for Trump came during his cognitive test. Instead of recognizing this as a necessary measure to ensure his own safety and the safety of those around him, he framed it as if it was some kind of personal triumph. When asked to identify basic objects like a man, a woman, a camera, or an elephant, he boasted about his ability to recognize them, treating the test, which is meant to assess mental fitness, as an opportunity again to inflate his own ego. It's striking that a cognitive evaluation designed for public responsibility and personal accountability becomes a stage for Trump's obsession with intelligence, IQ, and providing who's smart or proving who's smart and who's not smart. He's even dragged his family into it accidentally, using them as reference points in his ongoing bizarre preoccupation with intellect. Moments like this reveal more about his priorities than any policy discussion ever could. Self-image and ego take precedence over competence, safety, and the well-being of the nation.
Well, okay, let me just answer the Jared. So Jared's a very smart guy. He did the Abraham Accords. As some people say, the Abraham, which I love the way that sounds. But he did the Abraham Accords. It was a great thing for big countries.
Trump's latest remarks about Jared Kushner show how much cronyism and self-interest dominate his worldview. Kushner, supposedly involved in negotiations in Gaza's reconstruction, is more focused on lining pockets than actual public service. That includes Trump's branded hotels, guys, if you don't forget. Meanwhile, he received $2 billion from Saudi investors for his private equity fund money, which he technically couldn't even manage himself, highlighting the absurdity of the praise Trump actually heaps on him. Trump insists Kushner has a high IQ, but the facts suggest otherwise. Now this is a pattern, guys. Loyalty and self-enrichment are elevated above competence or integrity, and Trump continually celebrates these failures as achievements. We here aim to hold such figures accountable every day, who prioritize wealth and image over actual governance, diplomacy and morality. As always, guys, please hit the like button, drop a like and subscribe. Keep the fight going. And if you're stuck around till the end of this video, please drop a blue heart in the comments to show that you're actually not afraid to stand up for the truth. And I'll see you on the next one.